All right, now we get into the fun stuff. Okay, um, interest rates. We'll talk about all that fun stuff. So we're gonna first start with simple interest, and in this video, we will compute simple interest and future value. We will compute principal rate or time. We will compute interest using the banker's rule, and we will compute the true rate of a discounted loan. So the topic for the next two sections is of interest to anyone who plans to buy a house, a car, have a credit card, invest money, have a savings account. In short, pretty much everybody. Everybody will have to learn what interest is, and everybody will have an encounter with interest. This interesting topic is interest, a description of how fees are calculated when money is borrowed and how your money grows when you save. Unless you don't mind being separated from your hard-earned money, this is a topic you should be eager to understand. Interest is a fee paid for the use of money, and that's whether you're borrowing money or whether you are saving money. In both cases, you are able to earn interest, okay? The stated rate of interest is generally given as a yearly percentage. So when we have an interest rate, it's usually per year, and it's a percentage of the amount that you're borrowing or of the amount that you are saving. So there are two kinds of interest. We have simple interest, which is a one-time percent of any amount of money. Then there's compound interest, which is a percentage of an original amount, as well as the percentage of the new amount, including that old interest. So we're going to first start talking about simple interest, and when we get into compound interest, I'll explain that a little bit better. In order to compute simple interest, we need three pieces of information. We need the principal, the rate, and the time. Okay, here are our keywords and our definitions. As we just said, interest is the fee charged for the use of money. The principal is the original amount borrowed or put into a savings account. The rate is the percentage, and we are going to see that we're going to change that rate into decimal form. The time is the term or the length of the loan, or how long the money is staying in the savings account, and it's usually calculated in years. And then our future value is the amount of the loan or investment plus the interest paid or earned. Okay, so the future value is what you borrowed or what you're saving plus the interest. All right, so for simple interest, we have a simple formula. Okay, we have simple interest. We have I equals PRT. I equals PRT, which is the principal times the rate times the time. All right, so example 1 tells us to find the simple interest and future value of a loan of $3,600 for 3 years at a rate of 8%. So this is how I start this off all the time. I equals PRT, and then on the side I write what my P, my R, and my T are. My principal is what I start with. That's 3,600. My rate is my percent as a decimal. So that's, remember, we just did that a couple lessons ago. Bring it back 2 times. 0.08, and my time is how long? 3 years. Literally just plugging those numbers in for those letters, substituting them, and multiplying. And why does this make sense? Well, the interest rate is 8% of the 3,600 for 3 years. Remember we said that of means multiply? Okay, so we're looking at 8% of our borrowed amount for 3 years. So we just really multiply them all together. All right, so my interest would be $864. The other part of my question says to also find the future value. Remember, your future value is your principal plus your interest. So my principal in this case was $3,600 plus what I earned in interest. So my future value, once again, if you're putting this into a savings account and you started with $3,600, what this means is that in 3 years, you will have earned $4,464. Well, technically you earned $864, but in addition to what you started with, you will have in your account $4,464. All right. As we said, interest is usually calculated in years, but what happens if we want to calculate it in months? So to meet payroll during a down period, United Ceramics Incorporated needed to borrow $2,000 at a 4% simple interest for 3 months. Well, I know I'm doing simple interest, so that's PRT, but my principal is what I borrowed. My rate is my percent as a decimal. And my time is usually in years, but it says 3 months. So 3 months is really just 3 out of 12, which can also be written as 1/4, which can also be written as a 0.25. We don't really want to deal with fractions, which is why we learned how to turn our fractions to decimals. So I can now solve this, where 2,000 is my principal, 0.04 is my percent, and 0.25 is my time. Punch that into your calculator. And we get $20. So my interest will be $20. Okay, does it make sense? Yes, I'm only borrowing for 3 months with a 4% simple interest. So it makes sense that my interest is about $20. Often a simple interest loan is paid off in monthly installments. To find the monthly payment, divide the future value of the loan by the number of months. Okay, monthly payment, we know about monthly payments. A lot of things that we pay are monthly. Car note, house note, those are our monthly payments. So the Lookout Restaurant took out a loan for $5,000 at a simple interest rate of 6.5, which is decimal 0.065, with a term of the loan 3 years. Find the interest, future value, and monthly payment. Okay, so the interest is I equals PRT. And we get our interest is $975. Our future value will be our principal plus our interest, which is $59.75. And then monthly payments will be that $59.75 divided by 3 years times 12 months equals 36 months. So I'm going to divide this by 36. That's going to tell me how many monthly payments I have to make. And remember, I'm doing 36 because I'm at 3 years. If it was 1 year, I can just divide it by 12. If it was 2 years, I would divide it by 24. All right, what happens when we don't have the principal? They give us the interest, they give us the rate, they give us the time, but they don't give us the principal. Well, I'm still going to set it up the same way. I'm just going to set up an equation, and I'm going to solve it for P. So Phillips Health and Beauty Spa is replacing one of its workstations. The interest on the loan secured by the spa was, so the interest, let's write this off in the corner just like we would before. The interest is $93.50. We don't know our principal. The money was borrowed at a 5.5%, which is 0.055. And our time is 2. Find the principal. So I'm still going to set this up. I equals PRT. I equals P times R times T. I want to get P by itself, so I'm going to start by multiplying the 0.055 and the 2, just to simplify it a little, which gives me 0.11. This is a parenthesis. To get P by itself, I have to do the opposite operation, which is division. So my principal comes out to be $850. Remember, this is division. $93.50 divided by 11. Not 11, 1100ths, 0.11. Make sure you put that decimal there, because I just typed that in the calculator. I'm like, that's not right. $93.50 divided by 0.11 is 850. Okay? All right. The same thing happens when we're missing our interest rate. We're going to go through the same steps, except this time we don't have our rate. So it tells us the furnace company invested $15,250 for 10 years and received $9,150 in simple interest. So my interest was $91.50. My principal is what I invested, or they invested, $15,250. The rate is what we don't know, and the time is 10. Once again, you set it up like you have it. I'm just going to put the numbers next to each other and put the R at the end. It's the same concept because multiplication is commutative, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to simplify it. 9150 equals 152500 when I multiply that by 10, and I still have my R there. Divide both sides by that 152500 to get R by itself. Punch it in your calculator. And you should get a rate of 0.06. But remember, rate is percent. So we want to multiply that by 100 and say 6%. Do not forget to turn that decimal back into a percentage. All right, here we go again. The last one is trying to find the time or the term of the loan. So a pawn shop offers to finance a guitar costing $750. That's our principal. At a rate of 4% simple interest. The interest charge will be $150. We don't know the time. Okay, so I equals PRT. Okay, multiply that 750 times 0.04. That gives us 30T equals 150. Divide both sides by 30. And I end up my time equals 5. And remember, that is in years. All right, so fun stuff. Banker's rule. Simple interest for short-term loans is sometimes computed in days. For example, the term of a loan may be 90 days. In this case, the time will be 90 days out of 365 days, since there are 365 days in a year. However, many lending institutions use what is called the banker's rule. The banker's rule treats every month like it has 30 days. So instead of using 365, we just say 360 days in a year. They claim the computations are easier to do. When a lending institution uses 360 days instead of 365, how does this affect the amount of interest? Okay, well, let's look. If we were to compute it regular with 365 days in the year, the interest would be $98.36. Okay, this is what you will have to pay the bank for borrowing money. However, the banker's rule uses 360 days. Therefore, they are earning $100 instead of $98.36. Okay, you may say, oh, it's just a couple dollars. Yeah, imagine getting that couple dollars from a couple thousand of people. Okay, so they are manipulating it to earn more money. Okay, we can see why this is called the banker's rule and not the customer's rule, because we get the short end of the stick. Okay, so the banker's rule is very old, and there was a time when it made sense. Originally, interest on savings and loans had to be calculated by hand, and therefore it was easier to calculate. But those types of calculations haven't been done by hand for over 50 years. And in the age of computers, it's just plain silly to worry about how difficult it is to compute interest. So why do some lenders still use the banker's rule? Because they can, probably, and it makes them more money. So although it's an old rule, some banks still use it. I can't really speak on that personally, but just know that it's called the banker's rule for a reason. So let's try using this banker's rule. Find the simple interest. We're still using I equals PRT. Principal 1,800. Rate 6%. 120 days, but banker's rule tells us out of 360. I would personally change this to a decimal first. Okay, 120 divided by 360 should give you about 0.3, and then you can multiply that by 0.06, and then multiply that by 1,800, and you should get $36 as your interest. All right, so that's the end of section 7.3. Make sure you are reading over your discussion questions and writing down any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have for me.